The pandemic situation in Thailand has improved. The state has started to lift restrictions. We need to take care of ourselves. Diseases can affect the body, and the ailing body is a Mara, the evil one or the destroyer. When there's illness, it is called the Mara of the aggregates. Great sickness causes death, which is called the Mara of death. These Mara, evil ones, destroyers, are the obstacles to the progress of the Dhamma practice. So the Buddha warned us to practice with diligence right in this moment, today. Do not procrastinate. We don't know when Mara will block our progress. For example, when we practice and there is a pandemic, we may suddenly get infected and die, losing the opportunity to further practice. We lost the opportunity because of our complacency. On the other hand, if we live our lives with mindfulness every day, cultivating all the good qualities and merits, our lives are fruitful. So try to be diligent. There are physical and abstract Maras, evil ones, destroyers. The physical Mara is the Mara of the aggregates, which focuses on the physical body. Theoretically speaking, this Mara is the 5 aggregates. The Mara of death cuts off the opportunity to cultivate merits, so we have to cultivate them now. The abstract Maras are the Mara of defilements, impurities. We can accumulate our own defilements. Some are prone to lust and greed, some are prone to anger and aversion, some are prone to delusions and mindfulness. We accumulate them ourselves. When the defilement arises, the mind formulates, fabricates, composes. When the mind struggles and formulates, it is called Mara of karma formations. This Mara is a dangerous one. The karma formations can be good or bad, causing us rebirths in different realms. The Mara of karma formations works together with their own impurities. Another Mara is called the Mara as deity. This is a mind full of jealousy and envy. When it sees someone being successful at worthwhile undertakings, it pesters or impedes. Sometimes pestering comes in physical form, verbal form, like spreading misinformation, or mental form. For someone with strong mind powers, mental pestering is possible. Since we already have impurities, the jealous Mara as deity can arouse impurities, making our impurities stronger. For a monk, the Mara as deity can stimulate lust and greediness. Or if we are in a group, the Mara as deity stimulates our anger and aversion among the group's members. It can be done in a way similar to hypnotism. So after the stimulation, the mind struggles and formulates more impurities. This causes the Mara of karma formations to work more effectively. If we observe carefully, we can see that many students and practitioners lose to these Maras. Some people are about to make good progress in their practice, but they suddenly die or get very sick. This is an obstruction by Mara. There are internal and external Maras. The external Mara is the Mara as deity. The internal Mara is the Mara of our own aggregates, the Mara of our own death, Mara of our defilements, or Mara of our own karma formations. As an example, a monk's life is physically strenuous. Living it can cause sickness. It has happened at this temple. Some monks get really sick and must leave the monkhood, as a monk's life is no longer possible for them. Many monks here have left monkhood because of Mara of the aggregates. But what mostly affects the monks are the Mara of defilements and the Mara of karma formations, which arise from their own minds. As an example, formulating lust and greed when seeing ordinary people and seeing non-monk life as happy and fulfilling. So they want to leave the monkhood to enjoy this kind of pleasure. Sometimes anger and aversion get formulated against fellow monks. Sometimes the agitation arises without provocation. At some temples, monks' physical fights break out. So far, it is good that we haven't had that happen here. This is a defeat to the mind's impurities. When the impurities overcome you, further practice is not possible, and change must be made. For a monk, this is called the monk robe is getting hot, and one can no longer stay in monkhood. We have to realize that our lives are short, and we do not know when we will die. So the practice must start today. It must start now. Never put it off. Some people keep putting off practicing Dhamma until they get old, but many die before getting old. So, after listening to the Venerable Buddha's teachings, we should urgently follow his path. Every day, resolve to keep the 5 precepts, if you are a common person. If you are a monk, resolve to keep the 5 precepts, the Vinaya, monk's code of conduct, and perform other assigned duties to the best of your abilities. This helps you practice mindfulness. The Vinaya, code of conduct, is very strict. If you lose mindfulness, you will violate some code. When standing to shower and you lose your mindfulness, you may forget to sit down before urinating. This is a violation of the code. When hanging damp clothes on the clothesline, directly putting the clothes over the clothesline is a violation of the code. The cloth must be inserted from the back to the front. This is done to prevent splinters on the clothesline damaging the clothes. The Buddha was very meticulous in prescribing the Vinaya. The Vinaya covers all the actions, whether you stand, walk, sit, sleep, or eat. There are codes about them. The purpose is for monks to cultivate mindfulness. If you have mindfulness, it will be possible to flawlessly follow the code. New monks sometimes become mindfulness and drink while standing, a violation of the code. They lost mindfulness because they don't yet have samana sanya, perception that they are now monks, not commoners. They need to practice. Every day we resolve to keep the precepts. Every day we must set aside some time for our formal practice. We can do any practice that suits us. As for myself, I practice samadha, peacefulness, with breathing. I practice vipassana, insight, mainly by being mindful of my mental formations. But when I teach, I do not advise some to practice mindfulness without breathing or chanting while being mindful of breathing. Through practice of mindfulness with breathing is difficult and delicate. I advise some monks to just observe the body. See the body breathing in, breathing out, standing, walking, sitting, or lying down. Some people are confused because they have heard that I taught about mindfulness by using the body, and observing the body is appropriate for people who are samadha yanaki, people who use peacefulness as the main vehicle to walk the path. So they wonder that without the mind reaching jhana, deep concentration or absorption, how can one practice mindfulness using the body? Reaching jhana before practicing mindfulness using the body is for cultivating wisdom, but practicing mindfulness using the body as the home base directly, called kayagata sati, like observing the hair, nails, teeth, or skin, is for cultivating samadhi, stability and concentration. These are the different levels of practice. If we practice observing the body to gain samadhi, the stability and concentration quality of the mind, We do not need to be in jhana, deep absorption, before starting to observe the body, because we haven't yet achieved jhana, deep absorption. So we start observing the body without jhana. If we are currently sitting, be mindful that the body is sitting. When the body moves, when it breathes, be mindful. Being mindful and observant of the body frequently will bring power to the mind. It will become more peaceful, stable, and powerful. So don't feel slighted at your personal advice to observe the body. Don't be discouraged that I did not advise you to observe the mental formations. Observing mental formations requires sufficient strength of samadhi, stability and concentration. Keep practicing basic samadhi, which occurs intermittently. Do that more diligently first. If we do not have samadhi, stability and concentration, the mind will be full of restlessness, and we cannot observe the mental formations. Citta, mind, is a delicate object. Without sufficient mindfulness and samadhi, we cannot properly practice observing mental formations. We cannot find them. So if we cannot observe mental formations, practice observing the body first. Do not shun the practice of observing the body. We can practice by observing the hair, nails, teeth, skin, or observe the body standing, walking, sitting, and lying down. We can observe the body breathing in and breathing out. Keep practicing continuously. Be mindful and observant of the body. Just be mindful as an observer. Do not fixate or overly focus. Fixating or over-concentrating is not proper. Just mindfully feel. When the body moves, be mindful. Be mindful of the body's activities. Some schools teach students to observe the belly expanding and contracting while breathing. You see the body's movement. But if you do not practice correctly, the mind will get absorbed and move to fixate on the belly. That is not the proper practice anymore. The mindfulness got absorbed and we lost samadhi, stability and concentration. We can also practice by moving our hands, and if the mind gets occupied with the thought of what the next movement is, that is not proper. The mind is already lost and diffused. Or we can practice until our hand movements are perfect. Then the movements are instinctive, but the mind wanders off somewhere else. This is not proper practice. We practice citta, mind, not the body. We don't practice beautiful physical movements or gestures. We are practicing mindfulness and samadhi, stability and concentration of the mind. So we practice what we can. Some monks start out by observing the body breathing. They like it. After a short while of observation, the mind wanders off and gets lost. If that happens, it means that observing the body breathing is still a practice that's too delicate for them. So we make the practice more concrete, like chanting Bud while breathing in and chanting Do while breathing out. If chanting while breathing still does not work, we can add counting to the chanting. In Bud, out Do, count 1. In Bud, out Do, count 2. Keep counting. If the mind still wanders off and gets lost with all this, you need something even more concrete. The body itself is a concrete or coarse object of practice. Even when the mind wanders off, the body still exists. This is unlike citta, mind. When the mind gets lost, we no longer find it. But the body never ceases to exist. So if our mindfulness and samadhi are still very weak, they cannot observe the mental formations. If the mind is weak and wanders off or dozes off all the time, observe the body instead. Practice this way. After a period of practicing observing the body, citta, the mind, will become more powerful. Some can automatically start observing mental formations. They can cultivate wisdom by observing mental formations. This is the other part of the practice. The practices are cultivating wisdom and developing samatha, peacefulness, or practicing samadhi, stability and concentration. Some cultivate wisdom by continuing to observe the body. Initially, keep following and observing the body standing, walking, sitting, and lying down. Observe the body breathing in and out. After citta, the mind has obtained powerful samadhi, stability and concentration. The mind will see that the body is breathing. The body stands, walks, sits, lies down, moves, or being still is something that the citta mind can observe and know. The mind is the observer and the knower. It is seeing the truth of the body. The body moves because of suffering. The constant pressure from suffering causes continuous body movements to alleviate physical suffering. When one sees that the body is full of suffering and not something desirable, or sees that the body is something that can be observed and detached from citta, the mind or the observer, one sees that the body is just an object and not self. This is wisdom cultivation. I've heard or read some biographies of some Dhamma teachers. Some started out by practicing observing the body. Then they started cultivating wisdom by observing the body until the mind saw that the body is purely suffering. This suffering was so great, comparable to having a mountain crushing and grinding on the body. This is the ultimate wisdom. The mind then liberated itself, letting go of the body, and the mind letting go of all 5 aggregates. Some teachers started from observing the body, practicing samadhi, stability and concentration, like observing the body breathing. After obtaining samadhi, they observe the mental formations, like feelings, wholesomeness, and unwholesomeness. This path is also possible. Ultimately, they saw that citta, the mind, is the ultimate suffering. The same citta, which was the knower, the fully awakened, and the blissful one, was the ultimate suffering. The suffering was also comparable to having a whole mountain crushing and grinding on the citta like an object in the grinding mill. Afterwards, the observer, citta, disappeared and got eradicated. Letting go of clinging to the mind will result in letting go of all 5 aggregates and letting go of the entire universe. Detachment at citta, the mind, eradication of impurities at citta, full understanding of citta, results in letting go of citta and the whole universe. This is what Luangpu Dun taught me. So each of us has our own path to practice. Do not imitate others, but observe yourselves. Some people practice using abstract objects. For example, some people start practicing by chanting. After a while, citta starts to see some space among other abstract objects. This space is something observed by citta. The mind then focuses and gets absorbed into the space. This is called akasanang-kayatana, using the sphere of infinite space as the object of meditation. When citta, the mind, carefully observes this progress, citta sees that citta itself moves into space to observe it. So citta, the mind, gives up observing the space and returns to observing itself. Once citta, the mind as the observer, observes itself, Citta transforms from being an observer to something that is observed. The observation of old citta is done by a new citta, the observing mind. This process repeats over and over, and the practitioner will feel as if citta, the mind, keeps arising indefinitely. This is called Vijnanan Kayatana, the sphere of infinite consciousness. If citta, the mind, concentrates on the space, it is the first formless jhana. The mind concentrating on itself is the second formless jhana. If we practice further, citta, the mind, will see that observing itself is still burdensome. Citta will then stop observing other objects and itself. Citta will no longer observe any object, nor will it observe itself. This is the third formless jhana, called akinkanayatana, the sphere of nothingness. This absorption is so subtle and delicate that mindfulness will gradually weaken. The perception will also gradually weaken. Mindfulness and perception still exist in this state, but are weakened until the point that citta, the mind, appears as if it no longer perceives or observes anything. The mind will then enter the deepest formless jhana, called nevasanan asanayatana, the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. All of this is samatha, peacefulness practice. On the other hand, if we practice samatha, peacefulness, using breathing, and we do not practice further, we will obtain material jhana, deep absorption, by using a physical object. If you practice by observing the body, we will also obtain jhana, deep absorption, with a physical object. Obtaining formless jhana is what I described earlier. Not everyone needs to obtain formless jhana. If you are more skillful at observing physical objects, material jhana is sufficient. Citta will be a powerful observer and peaceful. Citta, as an observer, will automatically arise. It takes no effort to preserve this observer. This observer is not wobbly or shaky. It is very stable. So if we continuously observe the body when it moves, stands, walks, sits, lies down, or breathes, the mind will gradually become more powerful. Eventually, the mind will become a stable observer. This is another way to cultivate the stable observer. There are many ways to cultivate citta's stability. If we observe the mental formations and see that the mind wanders off or gets lost, the mind will stop moving immediately and the stable, observing mind will arise. There are many ways to cultivate a stable mind that is knowing, awakened, and blissful. Once we achieve this kind of stable citta, we proceed to practice wisdom cultivation. We do wisdom cultivation by observing the body, but we will not just see the body. We will also see trilaksana, the three characteristics of the body. This is wisdom cultivation by seeing the truth, not thinking. Thinking is for practicing samatha, peacefulness. If we think of the body as something appalling, impermanent, in conflict and decay, and not self, something along that line, that is samatha, peacefulness. Thinking along the line that brings peacefulness. Thinking about our eventual death also brings peacefulness to the mind. But vipassana, insight, begins when citta has insights. Citta will see that the body is under pressure to constantly move. The body breathes in, then breathes out. The body stands, walks, sits, lies down. Why does the body keep switching between breathing in and out? Why does the body need to keep changing postures? Because the body is suffering. Citta must see this truth, and not just thinking about it, to be vipassana insight practice. So we can practice vipassana insight by observing the body. If the mind observes space or stillness, that is samatha, peacefulness practice. But if the mind observes the working process of the mind and mental formations, seeing that sometimes the mind fabricates happiness, sadness, wholesomeness, unwholesomeness, and seeing that all mental formations are impermanent, that is wisdom cultivation, or vipassana, insight. We also see that the mind itself can fabricate good or bad mental formations on its own. It acts on its own. After seeing the phenomena repeatedly, the wisdom will be deeper. It will know that the mind is not self. If the mind observes the body, it will see that the body is not self. If we keep practicing this, the mind will see itself. Starting from observing the body, the mind ultimately sees the mind itself. The mind will see that the body is something that the mind can observe, and the mind is the observer. When detachment happens, it doesn't matter whether you have been practicing observing the body or mental formations. The detachment is complete. The detachment happens to all the 5 aggregates. The Buddha has taught us many ways to practice. Do not think that one particular teaching is the best. I myself practiced cultivating wisdom by observing the mental formations. After practicing for a while, I realized that observing the mental formations can be done as a samatha, peacefulness practice, as well as a vipassana, insight practice, just like observing the body. Observing the body can either be samatha or vipassana. If we see just the phenomena from observation, like the body standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or we see the mental formations, that the mind is happy, sad, unwholesome, wholesome, and constantly changing, that is samatha, peacefulness practice. If we see trilaksana, the 3 characteristics of the body, of the mental formations, or of the mind, that is vipassana. Vipassana is not our only practice. It is impossible to exclusively practice vipassana. Vipassana requires a lot of mental power. After a while, the mental power drops and stability and concentration of the mind will not be sufficient. The mind will start to become restless. Instead of being an observer, the mind will become the thinker, the fabricator, the composer. So we need to practice samatha in order to regain samadhi. Come back to observe the body. Do not fixate or overly focus on the body. Just feel its existence. Observe that the body stands, walks, sits, lies down, breathes in, and breathes out. Just feel it. It is the same for observing mental formations. Do not fixate or overly focus on the mind or mental formations. Just feel them. Observe happiness, sadness, wholesomeness, and unwholesomeness. Observe frequently. Patiently observing will bring peacefulness. Observing just one object continuously will make the restless mind become more gentle and stable and in a good state. Keep practicing. Practice every day. Do not be complacent. Do not ignore the practice or put it off until later. Be diligent. There are many topics in my teaching about practice today. It includes observing the body or the mind, samatha, and vipassana. Practice what suits you. For example, you heard that I practice anapanasati, breathing meditation. So you want to practice it, but some will not be successful at it. the meditation object is too fine for them. If so, you must use an object that is more concrete. Observe the body. If you observe the mind and mental formations, the mind can wander off and get lost. If you observe the body, it cannot wander off. So it's easier. Many teachers have started by observing the body. In fact, the majority of our teachers started by observing the body. For the teachers who are more skillful at observing the mind and mental formations, their teachers taught them to observe the mind and mental formations. For example, Luangpu Dun was Luangpu Mun's student. After he understood some initial part of the truth of Dhamma, Luangpu Mun taught Luangpu Dun to observe the mind when teaching. All the mental formations and all the perceptions are impermanent. And all the mental formations and all the perceptions are non-self. Luangpu Dun practiced this for a short period of time. Then he fully understood the Four Noble Truths of the Citta, the mind. He knew that Citta has desires and cravings at its root cause, and the mind wanders off or gets lost because of desires and cravings. Desires and cravings cause the mind to soar out to the senses, to the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. This is the cause of suffering. By having mindfulness of these phenomena, we are walking the noble path. The noble path consists of cultivating sila, the moral precepts, samadhi, the stability and concentration of the mind, and panna, wisdom. When all three of the components are sufficiently developed, the mind will attain nirodha, the cessation of suffering. Luangpu Dun learned all about this in a short time. He was practicing observing the mind and the mental formations. So, we heard about his story and wanted to imitate, hoping that we can become liberated quickly. But our minds do not have sufficient power, so we cannot observe the mind and mental formations. I was practicing samatha, so my mind had been a stable observer since I was young. So when I met Luangpu Dun, he immediately taught me to observe the mind and mental formations, and did not mention more basic practice like chanting. But for some students, Luangpu Dun taught them to chant Buddho. He taught some to observe a strain of hair, some students to observe a piece of bone. These are all samatha teachings. Many of his students started the practice by observing the body. Fewer students started the practice by observing the mind and mental formations. That was because many students had not yet sufficient samadhi to see the mind and mental formations phenomena. You need strong samadhi to practice observing the mind. Otherwise, the mind will wander off and get lost in thoughts, and the observation practice is lost. You can no longer observe your mind.